The 25% rule and prime canon timeline. On one side of this debate, you have the Occam Razors camp, those who believe CBS wanted Star Trek Discovery and future shows within the franchise to have updated visuals for a modern audience, still pull in older Trekkies with TOS nostalgia, force merchandisers to purchase a new license agreement, and have a dash of Kelvin film visuals to pull in the new movie audiences. While on the alternative license camp, you have a belief that Bad Robot wanted to eliminate the older Star Trek merchandise, create a fleet of new Star Trek TV shows using their Kelvin Universe license agreement, and eventually get what they wanted through a backdoor dealing process by passing this agreement to a new company founded by Alex Kurtzman, who coincidentally was heavily involved with the Kelvin films and the Countdown comic series. And of course, you have the third camp of people who are just like, stop talking about this, nobody cares, just shut up. So, during my private conversations with some of the folks over at Midnight's Edge, the main proponents of the alternate license camp, I asked them very pointedly what information they were basing their opinions off of. They provided me with three main points: Jon Eaves' Facebook post about the 25%, information provided by Meyer Burnett, and a screenshot from a Discuss article from the Wayback Machine. And before any of you ask, yes, I have attempted to cover this story before, but most people felt like I didn't do a good enough job with actually countering the information being presented. So, I'm here to take another crack at it and hopefully give you, the viewer, an alternative viewpoint. Also, keep in mind that I am not going after Midnight's Edge in this video, but since they are the ones who publish this information to the widest audience, they will be one of the main focuses of this discussion. So let's talk about Jon Eaves' situation first. Eaves, one of Discovery's designers, posted onto Facebook attempting to clarify the Enterprise's updated look seen at the end of Discovery Season 1, saying, quote, "The task started with the guideline that the Enterprise for Discovery had to be 25% different, otherwise production would have most likely been able to use the original design from the 60s, but we couldn't." He went on to explain that this decision came from the CBS legal department, and when commentators on his Facebook post pointed out that this statement didn't make any sense because they understand it as CBS owning the entire Star Trek IP and its television rights, Eaves said, quote, "You're asking the wrong guy." This post was up for less than 24 hours before being pulled down by Eaves himself, and a clarification statement was issued by CBS saying, quote, "CBS Studios does, in fact, own the rights to the designs of the USS Enterprise seen on previous Star Trek television series, and they are not legally required to make any changes to the design. Any changes made to the design of the Enterprise were creative ones to utilize 2018 visual effects technology." So where does this evidence reside in the two camps? Well, for the Occam's Razor camp, it seems like Eaves didn't really understand the legalese about what is really going on with the show, and that CBS is intentionally making the Enterprise look different to ensure merchandisers have to pay for the updated look. Essentially, they can no longer use the TOS design they originally paid for on a Discovery lunchbox, not that they make any of those. Now, in an alternative license camp, this was the accidental leak of what is really going on behind the scenes, and CBS Legal is ensuring compliance with the legal requirement 25% rule under the Bad Robot license agreement, and CBS just tried to quickly cover up the truth. But this isn't the only piece of evidence showcasing the 25% issue. A photo from Destination Star Trek 2018 that I have confirmed came from someone in attendance shows off design notes clearly mentioning the 25% rule. So where does this evidence reside in the camps? For Occam's, again, it's about CBS forcing merchandisers to purchase the new license agreement, but it also showcases a desire to freshen up the visuals for the new show, possibly even implying that the maximum amount of changes to the older iconic pieces of Star Trek is 25%, not a minimum, which does also connect back into the statement from CBS clearing up Eaves' post. In the alternative license theory camp, this is another breadcrumb leading back to the legally required changes being forced onto the production by the Bad Robot license deal. Its existence to them also gives additional weight to Eaves' original Facebook post. So now let's move on to Meyer Burnett. Midnight's Edge has done 2 separate interviews with him discussing many topics related to Star Trek, but our focus is on the license agreement and Bad Robot's involvement with the new show. I believe the insight Robert provides can best be explained using his own words from the 2 Emmy videos, the first one being posted on February 17th, 2019 at around the 1 hour 15 minute mark, and the second video posted on March 3rd, 2019 at around the 11 minute 57 mark. Listen here.
And people keep bringing up the the whole connection between Bad Robot and Star Trek Discovery. I don't know if there's anything more you can get into about that. They're talking about it in the chat quite a bit. I know you're short on time, but if there's anything more as far as light you can shine on that, I'm sure they'd appreciate that. Other than
I don't really know. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't privy to any of those conversations, but I do know that, look, the way that the entertainment business works is everybody wants to get paid. And you can make, there's an ungodly amount of money. If you knew how much money you could make if you're involved with say, a long-running show like Big Bang Theory, we're talking you can make hundreds of millions of dollars personally. There's a lot of money at stake here. Now, Bad Robot did not take over the Star Trek franchise in 2009 as a one-off. Star Trek had a long history of both as a feature film and as a television franchise that, by the way, ran concurrently. So the idea that, when Bad Robot made Star Trek 09, they were just thinking about making one movie. No, they weren't. Whatever deal they made sure that they could make movies and television. What's happening now under Kurtzman's watch was exactly what they wanted to have happen in 2009. We're going to take over Star Trek. We're going to make it our own. And we're going to make animated shows. We're going to make kids shows. We're going to make Section 31. We're going to do the Picard show. We're going to do all kinds of Star Trek. We're going to turn we're going to turn it into an empire. And isn't it interesting that the person that's heading all this up is the same person that wrote Star Trek 09, that came up with a story for the Countdown comic. For who? For Bad Robot. The J.J. Abrams movies had come up at the end of the conversation, and the cast was riffing on what would it be like if we got rebooted the same way that the original cast had been rebooted in Star Trek 09. It was very funny, and Patrick Stewart made a joke. Well, I know what it's like because I'm already working with James McAvoy, who's playing a young Professor X in the X-Men movies, so I know what it's like to have my own character rebooted by another actor. And it was very charming, and there was a riff from all of them. Well, I got a note back from the legal team saying, you cannot talk about this at all. You cannot mention anything about Star Trek 09. And you cannot mention anything about the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, which in my mind was such a weird thing to get. Because why not? I mean, it's not like it's not real. And these were documentary pieces. Like, why couldn't we keep this riff? Nope. I had to cut it out. And I was like, that was the first time that I realized, there is a line in the sand that has been drawn within CBS about Bad Robot's version of Star Trek and the canon of Star Trek.
So where does this evidence fit into the two camps? For Occam's, the fact that it seems as though Bad Robot got what they wanted to begin with is suspicious, but because Robert was not a part of any of these conversations and also heard it from his own sources within CBS, it's not a very strong piece of information. Additionally, the note regarding the removal of any mention of the Kelvin films fits in with the license breakup as we understand them. You were doing a CBS production and you can't talk about stuff over at Paramount even if it's still Star Trek related. As for the Alternative License Group, a seasoned industry insider is sharing his personal experience on the business side of things and stating that his CBS contacts are substantiating this feeling that Bad Robot wanted to take over the entire Trek franchise all along, and they are doing that now through Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman. Additionally, the forced removal of any mention of the Kelvin films from the TNG Anniversary interview showcases that the Prime canon and Bad Robot productions of Star Trek can't reference each other at all. This is important because they believe that this legal separation is still being applied to Discovery and future Trek shows because of their belief that this is all the exact same license agreement. Finally, let's talk about the Discuss article. This was provided to me by Midnight's Edge, and I wasn't able to find the exact article because Discuss is kind of stupid and doesn't work like normal websites when it comes to searching for things, and the Wayback Machine doesn't help with it either. But that's not a problem. For me, I decided to do some digging. The article references the Memory Alpha pages for Bad Robot Productions and Star Trek Discovery. Putting aside the obvious issues with a community of people being able to edit these pages at will, similar to that of IMDb, I wanted to get in as much information as I could to see if there was even a reason Bad Robot was listed at all. So after trying the Wayback Machine, I discovered that Bad Robot was removed from the production company sometime between June 20th and June 30th. I decided to message the Memory Alpha Twitter account asking if there was a better way for me to see the site's changelogs, and he replied with, "Yeah, idiot, there's a big-ass history button." So I went to the site and then built this particular timeline up based off of all the information. On July 30th, 2016, user Thomas HL added it to the main Star Trek Discovery page. Then on July 31st, Thomas HL added it to the Bad Robots production page as well. And now, on January 24th, 2017, user Archer for Real flagged the information as incorrect on the Bad Robots production page, and the main site admins removed this blurb from Bad Robots page on June 9th, 2017. On June 26, 2017, user by the name of Renegade54 flagged the information as incorrect on the main Star Trek Discovery page, and then it was removed the following day on June 27th by user MDW. Now, it is important to note that when Bad Robot was modified to say that it was producing Star Trek Discovery, no reference, article, or source was given. I attempted to reach out to user Thomas HL, but I'm not really sure how Memory Alpha's messaging system works, so I'm not even sure if he or she got it. Regardless, I didn't get word back, so I'm not really sure if I could actually talk to them. But if you're out there and you see this video, hit me up so we can chat. Coupled with this article is the belief that CBS simply scrubbed Bad Robot from their initial reports and either removed it entirely or replaced it with Secret Hideout. So I decided to dig into that as well. I first jumped over to the CBS Press Release page where it shows the very first announcement for a new Star Trek show being November 2nd, 2015. This release didn't include Bad Robot either, but they could have edited this on their own website. I decided to dig even further, and then jumped on the Wayback Machine and checked out a few sites to see if this information was the same. I hit all the major Trek news sites for November 2nd, 2015, along with CBS's original announcement for that date, and none of them mentioned Bad Robot at all. Finally, deciding to dig even deeper, I did a simple Google search for this announcement to see what I could find. And I got articles from TV Line, The Verge, Variety, Deadline, Space.com, The Atlantic, Polygon, Forms, and The Hollywood Reporter, all of which never listed out Bad Robot either. So, where does this evidence sit within the two camps? For Occam's razor, it clearly shows that Bad Robot was never announced as a producer for Star Trek Discovery. Websites that can be fan-edited like IMDb or Memory Alpha most likely included this information for a brief period of time because of Alex Kurtzman's involvement and the assumption that JJ would probably want to get involved on a new Trek television show. For the alternative license camp, this shows CBS's tenacity at hiding the truth of what is really going on with the license agreement between them and Bad Robot. The fact that only a few sites listed this out isn't damaging at all to their opinion, but instead ties into the narrative about small leaks that all connect together to paint a larger picture of deception, 25% changes, and an entirely new canon timeline. But where does all of this leave us now? Which camp is right and which one isn't? I mean, they can't both be right, so someone has to be wrong. Sadly, this question will never really be 100% answerable until someone leaks out the entire agreement between CBS, Secret Hideout, and potentially Bad Robot. The goal of this video isn't to say how wrong people who believe the 25% rule are, but to showcase that there are multiple ways of looking at this topic. Anyone out there who is steadfastly using either argument as a weapon to put down other Trekkies should take a pause and realize that you actually don't have 100% proof on your side. And that instead of just wanting to believe your own opinion is right and shouting other folks down, try listening to each other. Try to understand the issues from multiple viewpoints, because doing that in its own way keeps the legacy of Star Trek alive.